There are two types of studies or etudes. Training studies, which improve the elements of acting techniques, and studies at the working on the role method. They are totally different with different objectives and criteria. In this episode, we're going to talk about working on the role studies. These are preparatory exercises for the embodiment of feelings, thoughts, actions, and images, analogous to feelings, thoughts, actions, images of the role's living organism. Such exercises should be very varied and systematic. A study is a feathery sketch for a certain plot, something free, improvised. A study is needed as a stage in the process of cognition, analysis of the role and play. Stanislavski emphasizes that the transition from the emotional experience of a role to its embodiment doesn't happen easily and painlessly. Everything that was gained by actors and created in their imagination often conflicts with the real conditions of the stage action, which is taking place in interaction with partners. As a result, the organic life of the actor role is disrupted, and acting clichés, bad habits, and conventions ready to serve, come to the fore. In order to avoid such danger, Stanislavski recommends the actors, without forcing their nature, carefully and gradually establish live interaction with partners and with the surrounding stage environment. This task should serve, in his opinion, studies on the themes of a play, which help actors to set up the most delicate process of spiritual interaction with partners. The term study or etude was taken from music, as it denotes analogous process only in dramatic art. I myself couldn't do anything yet, but I realized that this was something very important in our profession, and felt that in the end it was quite possible to master it. Here I saw something similar to violin or musical technical exercises in general, etudes. Being a former musician, this is very familiar to me. The same etude can be played in different rhythms, with different strokes, for different purposes. It is strongly based on improvisation. Still, a study doesn't fully equal improvisation as such. It means that an already relatively experienced performer who is able to act improvisationally in given circumstances, who possesses the organic nature of the stage process, having analyzed the situation created by a playwright together with a director, will try to live this situation through bypassing the author's text and using all the skills and experience gained in a training study. Studies train whatever you like and whatever is needed by a director in a play. Logic of action and feelings, interaction between partners, estimation through action, etc. Mainly, studies are used to work at all the events of a play during rehearsals, sequentially or not. It is vital to abide by such eventivity. Please check on episode 9. Following this, studies must stick to the play's super objective and through action. Any particular study also must be a completed piece with integrated wholeness. not something without a start and an end. The meaning Stanislavski put into the concept of etude also changed drastically. Before, Konstantin Sergeyevich made studies with us upon themes around a play. The themes of the studies dealt with the characters' past or episodes that expanded their biographies somehow. Now the students were doing studies on events directly occurring in the play. Stanislavski achieved amazing results by including in the process of the play analysis not only the brain but also the body of actors. Students got into the very essence of actions, confrontations, conflicts. Konstantin Sergeyevich never got tired of repeating that the meaning of his new techniques is that it helps to extract from the soul of a creative person, the artist, their own living inner material analogous to the role. He said this is the only proper material for creating a living soul of a person portrayed. Then, without starting thorough analysis and research of the play's text, make a selection of the main facts events taking place in the play. Talk through these facts very well and in detail, again with the help of an author. Make a series of studies on them with the performers. You can say your own text, but according to the author's thoughts. Then connect the first study along the play with the second, then with the third, and so on throughout the play. You will get a chain of studies. If you have correctly chosen the facts, the reasons for the studies, you will get a living scheme, the backbone, the skeleton of the play. Find and throw light plot walkways from one study to another, so that the studies can directly come one after another. Do not force the feeling in these studies. Make sure that the action and the attitude of the actors to the main event around which the study is performed would develop correctly and logically. Very good. Excellent school for young actors. How would you define the main event? What events are you going to do studies on? In order to proceed to the active analysis by means of studies with an improvised text, it is necessary to do a lot of preliminary work of the play's in-depth recognition at the table. That is, to carry out the work in the initial period Stanislavski called scouting by the mind. An extensive analysis of events, actions, themes will enable a performer not to deviate in the proposed study from the play, to master each episode in action, putting themselves in the given circumstances of the role. By the way, it is here, in my opinion, the most vulnerable point of the study work on a play. The actors not sensing, not yet fully understanding as it should be, the nature of the event, and it cannot be otherwise, taking the first steps. When the artists preoccupy themselves involuntarily, most of all with themselves and their roles, are concerned exclusively with finding their own objectives and adjustments. They build up conflicts spontaneously, very often forgetting about the event, and the director, carried away by the liveliness of improvisation, does not always find courage to limit or reorient them. This happens especially often when directors themselves did not understand the event structure very well and began rehearsals relying on the fact that joint scouting by action will reveal the meaning of what is happening in the play. When the directors, in fact, shift their own professional responsibilities on to actors. This is how the concept's unity is destroyed. The plot is being blurred. The whole performance falls apart. Does this mean that the actors, having proceeded to the stage of studies, in which they are looking for the logic and consecution of their psychophysical behavior, no longer return to the rehearsal table? No, they return to it after each study to comprehend everything they found, to check how accurately they fulfilled the playwright's plan, to share their living experience gained in the process of work, to get answers to their questions from the director, so that to comprehend the author's text even more deeply, and, sweeping aside the wrong things, to seek again blending with the role in action. All these mise-en-scenes born during studies must be critically analyzed in post-study analysis. The necessary and true ones must be preserved. The incorrect and inorganic ones must be discarded. Of course, it is impossible to mechanically transfer mise-en-scenes born in a study into the performance. The director has a lot to do in selecting mise-en-scenes in accordance with harmony of a concept, artistic imagery, etc. But in the process of study rehearsals, the character of the mise-en-scenes, which can be partially preserved in the performance, is often determined. So, in his last year's practice, Stanislavski did somehow a fusion of two methods: the method of studies and the method of physical actions. Please check on episode 11. Still not denying the second group of studies, which will be highlighted next. Actors should be taught gradually to work on a study improvisation. Their consciousness must be cleared of all clichés. Their body must freely obey the dictates of mind, will, and heart. And the whole setting, given circumstances in the study, should be 10 times more specific than those given by any author in a play. And a study can only be conducted by directors experienced in this matter, who will not allow themselves or actors never a whit to deviate in the study from the play's idea super objective and its through action. However, I have already spoken about this, and more than once. No, I don't mean a study. Wherever I rehearsed Tartuffe, at my place, here in my apartment or in the theatre, I would first of all arrange Orgon's house. In the Onegin hall, in one corner, I would have screens of Madame Pernel's room, in the other Elmire's, Demis's in the third, Marianne's in the fourth, Tartuffe's in All the corners are already occupied, Konstantin Sergeyevich. I would suggest that the actors themselves arrange their rooms in any corners and trumeaus. K.S. continued, not paying the slightest attention to my wit. And let them live and act in those. And the hungry wolf, Tartuffe, prowls all over the house, will peep into the keyhole of Elmir's room. What is his secret passion doing? Will come to kneel next to dotard Pernelicha. She has been praying for half a day. Will give Doreen a pinch on the way. Look reproachfully at Damis trying on a new jacket, and so on. Is this really a study? This is a series of particular actions, directors' suggestions to the actors. Rehearse it as soon as you make your scouting by the mind of the play. Immediately check on scouting by the mind with scouting by action. This is not a study. It is by no means searching for a mise-en-scène. God forbid that someone understands the new method of rehearsing the play this way. This is a sequence of specific actions arising from the author's text. Day by day, or rather rehearsal by rehearsal, look for these actions, and you will not notice how the performance is born. The studies on the play's events are one group. Other beneficial kinds of studies, being another group, include studies on the past and the future of a role, events outside the play. On the present too, when hypothetical situations relate very close to the plot. Studies on a given day from character's life, aiming to live the whole day or part of it as a certain character. What kind of studies did you make for this role? Jacques and his company was bumming around from tavern to tavern, singing songs, bullying passers-by, molested women. This perhaps is also necessary, but not in the first place. Actors with their characters must live at least one day from their biography. Have you played a study of how Jacques wakes up? Studies on the character's kernel or essence, meaning you act not losing the character in different situations being close to the play's plot, or quite possible to happen. Vladimir Ivanovich quite often sent for the actors after full dress rehearsals and offered them a number of studies. This was one of his favorite pedagogical techniques. He checked whether the sense of the kernel of the role was not limited by the play's situation only. And he bombarded me with questions about Charlotte's life, about her past, about her attitude towards each of the characters in the play. He asked if I understand that the lonelier a person is, the more they want to hide it. He explained and showed. Now, Stanislavski Gaev spoke to me, Charlotte. He taught me to play billiards, then he told me a half-decent incident from Paris life. All the time he has been involving me in his amazing study improvisation. In this study, Stanislavski's talent sparkled, dazzled. There seemed to be no situation he could not approach from Gaev's point of view. Studies ought to be performed with minimal text amount. If you still need words, use your own based on the author's thoughts and not actual place text. This method is a powerful tool to organically master script. Thus, the subject of an artist's creative interest at the time of rehearsal becomes action, deed, conflict, circumstances, and not words behind which it is so easy to hide, which one just wants to play out in different ways. In this situation, the main criterion for evaluating the study becomes, first of all, the compliance of the improvisation logic with the author's logic. The reasons for deviation from this logic are being looked for. Repetitions of the study are necessary. They bring the performers closer and closer to effective structure, to motives of the characters' behavior given by a playwright. The author's text begins to be memorized by itself. Separate exact expressions, whole phrases pop up in the artist's memory now and then. With each repetition, improvisation is getting closer and closer to that written by the playwright. This means that everyone is doing one large common study of various existing and presumable events from Sinichkin. Did I understand you correctly, Konstantin Sergeyevich? Quite right. This is a study, but according to the familiar for everyone plot and in the familiar artistic image. You can also use the thoughts and words of your character if they are needed and come up to any moment in the study. Konstantin Sergeyevich did not demand an abundance of words and thoughts from us in these studies improvisations, but he watched very strictly the correct estimation of the environment around us, the correct attitudes to each other. It doesn't matter at all which words a performer will use. It is important that these words are dictated by the author's thought, put into the episode on which the study is performed. I consider it necessary to emphasize once again that all studies must be done by performers with their own improvisational text only. The word comes up to an actor during the study rehearsals involuntarily, as a result of the correct inner sensation of the author's conception. How far an actor has advanced in mastering the author's thought serves the comparison of the improvised text with the original author's text. I am only more and more get convinced that the study assists in memorizing the text, because it is easier to memorize the thing you understand. The study reveals, sharpens all the organicity, the entire creative nature of actors, and their memory as well. Returning after the study to the table in order to check things missed or misunderstood in the post-study analysis, an actor or a student with extraordinary activity absorbs the text, masters it. A lot of questions arise that have never been raised before. It is often makes one wonder when to proceed to the strict capture of the author's text. Some vulgarizers of the new method, working on the basis of studies, believe that accuracy of the author's text is not important. It stuck in memory good. No, let's say the same thought in our own words. This point of view must be fought down. The work on the author's text should take place during the entire process of preparing the role. When to start memorizing it precisely is difficult to say. It seems to me there is no need to set exact dates. The improvised text should be dislodged by the author's text if the work is going alright. The author's text is usually easily assimilated when actors does not learn it mechanically. When it becomes essential for them to express the author's thoughts that have become close and dear to them. This the curator, who must have a sensitive perception of the actor's readiness for the next stage of work, is obliged to feel. Actors must know the reasons that prompted authors to construct and organize their phrase in one way or another, and they will know them since they assimilated the thoughts that had given birth to this phrase in the study. Rehearsing with exact given circumstances doesn't correspond with the method of studies. Do you want us, Konstantin Sergeyevich, to play a study on the subject Sophia and Molchalin on a date? Why should you call this a study? A study is a feathery sketch for a certain plot, something free, improvised, and Griboyedov says it all for sure. He puts his hand to his heart, does not say a word, does not take away his eyes from Sophia, plays the flute, a line of perfectly accurate actions. Should we deliver a study on this topic? Well, why it is a study once all the circumstances of action are known and there is no need to improvise anything special. Actors do not like this word, a study. An inexperienced director will tell something around something and then demand, play me a study on how your child was born and you have to leave for the North Pole in an hour. The actors did not really discuss anything either with each other or with the director, but the director's authority is above all things, and they play any ridiculous study. What is needed and should be avoided during putting the method into practice? Here, today, now. This formula by Stanislavski illuminates the entire method of studies. The game had to be played with that naive faith and sincerity that is children's characteristic in their games. Playing with me has become the reality of the play's plot for you. This is the task of every single study. Now recall the physical and psychological scheme of the study. The study was unexpected for you, and the situation in which Louise finds herself is unexpected for her. There is no need to prepare for it in advance with the acting soul. If you get a study right, do not torment it, but immediately put it aside for my review. If it doesn't work out, play it several times, but all the time changing the given circumstances and hitting your own and acting fantasy. Playing studies directly on the play's themes, on situations existing in it, we investigate the play actively and deeply. since actors are somewhat put immediately into the artistic image's living conditions, into the world of the play itself. It is important that actors conceive the episode being rehearsed not only with their mind, but with their whole being. Sometimes you come across another occurrence that hinders work. Actors, repeating the study 2 or 3 times, begin to fix their improvisational text. This must be fought down. As soon as study becomes a repetition and not searching for new, deeper sensations of artistic image, it is imperative to immediately stop such attempts, which lead to the wrong path. A study is needed as a stage in the process of cognition, analysis of a role and play. If actors have figured out what is happening, there is no need to keep them artificially at the past stage. You can fearlessly proceed to mastering the author's text in a given episode and move on to studies of subsequent episodes. The method of studies positively affects such skills and qualities. Playing a study following the author's conception, actors cannot ignore those inherent features of the piece's characters. And since in a real work of art the content and form are fused, and since actors in the process of active analysis get through into the world of the characters' inner sensations, and at the same time study the form of their external manifestation, they will certainly learn a number of genre features typical of this work. A study makes actors, when performing a number of specific actions, select the most typical for their created artistic image, induces its individually unique features, teaches to specificate the character's general condition in certain circumstances of the given moment. A study allows an actor to feel the physical nature of the scene, episode, from the very first minute. The study analyzes how a given person acts and thinks in the certain given circumstances. The approach to the role's text through studies, in which performers need to fantasize, imagine those circumstances, those visions, those thoughts, about which in prospect they will speak in the words of the author's text, enhances the performer's independent work. And in a study, the human essence of an actor is revealed immediately. The study did not succeed, which means that actors or students are closed, stiff, put on some armor. Then they don't see, don't hear, don't act. A study rips off the actor's unnatural, half-hearted general condition by enchantment. I speak with his words, I think with his thoughts. He sees and hears. This is how he treats others. From the very beginning, a study puts the actor's personality in the center of events. When playing a study, an actor or director knows there is nothing to hide behind. No text, no mise-en-scène, no adjustments, nothing. Only me, my eyes, my hearing, my line of thinking, my words, my reaction to what is happening. I will not answer to a line, but to a partner's thought, expressed in words unexpected for me. All this frees students, make them be full of initiative, reveals their individuality. Working by means of studies requires a quite experienced director. If you propose a study on speech action, expanding and deepening in a separate episode of the play, that is, so that actors in their own words go through the difficult place of the author's text several times, you must check very strictly whether their own words correspond to the given circumstances and the artistic images, behavior in the particular event. One has to be extremely attentive to the studies with one's own text. It is easy to deviate from the theme, idea, and through action of the play and start, sometimes imperceptibly, composing a new play. Only a director who has some experience and is strict with himself and deeply respects the author has the right to conduct a study, to offer it to actors. A study improvisation is the top form of the creative process for both the actors and directors. But a thoroughly tested study, correctly traced by a director, conveying in one's own words the author's text of a certain difficult episode, is a powerful weapon for revealing organic speech action. A study is excellent both as a way of working with young, still inexperienced artists and as a means of effective practical testing of the director's intentions. All is well in due time and place. A study is needed, great. Not needed, you can easily manage without it. Do not turn a living technique into a dogma. One cannot practice the method for the sake of method. This is the surefire way to ruin both the method and art itself.